start recording, but I'll pause it.
Okay. Mike, for those or Mike?
Yep.
So I have to do this the whole time?
Well, my pleasure to introduce Richard Harshorn to give one of our lectures in the modeling simulation lecture series. He is the assistant professor in the College of Education and director of the program in instructional design and technology. And I have the pleasure of having quite a number of education students from actually several of the programs in education. I teach introduction to modeling simulation, and I teach over the summer. So I like working with the education students.
Some of them are a big group.
Yeah, they are. They are a big group. And they'll be talking about a project that I think will be of considerable interest.
All right, thank you. Well, welcome everybody. It's a little different audience than I totally anticipated, so I'll kind of skip over some of the stuff. But a little bit about myself is I've been here for about 3.5 years. Prior to that, I was at UNC Charlotte as a professor of instructional systems technology. And UNC Charlotte's about half the size of UCF. It's about 30,000, 31,000 now. So it's a pretty robust school, but not quite the size of UCF. And did a lot with the surrounding community and industry with regards to instructional design and instructional modeling, simulations, that sort of stuff there. But also found myself doing a lot of other stuff like just basic instructional design, doing stuff unrelated to really what I was interested in. And this opportunity came up and at UCF, and with such a modeling and simulation focus in the area, it was too good to pass up. So, and love my time at UNC Charlotte, but kind of getting back to my roots a little bit here at UCF. Prior to UNC Charlotte, I was at UF for my graduate program, but taught high school physics in Jacksonville for 7 years before that. So just a little bit about myself. I oversee the instructional design and technology program here. We have, I know most of y'all have some familiarity with it, but we have 3 tracks: e-learning, ed tech, and instructional systems. And then we have 3 certificates, and I guess the one that would be most familiar to most of y'all would be instructional design for simulations. One of the things we're doing right now that's really neat, or trying to do right now, is we're trying to move to a competency-based program. So right now we have 5 course series, and you come in, you take your 5 courses, and you get your certificate. We're trying to move that to sort of a modular sort of approach, where when you complete each module, it's not time-based. You do an assessment. The assessment is evaluated by the professor or whoever, and then once you complete the module series, you get your certificate that way. So instead of you have to complete these 5 courses that take 2 years, year and a half, or whatever, you complete these competencies based on these modules, and that's kind of the general idea. A lot of little intricate things that have to be worked out. Obviously, this program, as Peter said, works with a lot of the modeling sim students add on the instructional design for simulation certificate. So how does that work? They take 3 courses over here and add in 2 or 3 courses from the sim program. So there are a lot of little things like that are still being worked out. But we're hoping to kind of implement that in the relatively near future, whatever that means in higher ed. I'm sure y'all have had some familiarity with that and experiences with that, and the near future means many things to many different people. So today what I'm going to talk about is a project in which I am one very small piece of a very large group of people that have contributed a lot of time and effort to, and it's developing a 9 through 12 modeling and simulation curriculum. The curriculum has gone through the state approval process. It's currently waiting for the Florida Department of Education approval, which at the phase it's at now is pretty much, from my understanding, almost like just a stamp, kind of just a stamp of approval sort of thing. So I posted some resources here. The curriculum itself, so if y'all are interested in going to check out what it looks like, really all you need to know is simulationinformation.com, and then when you go there, just click on education, and there'll be a ton of links, and you can select the M&S high school curriculum, or if you want to see the certification program, which I'll also talk about later, that's the second part, there's information on that, the study guide, and those sorts of things. So if you want to get more information, you can access those. And then if you're interested in checking out our ID for Sims or any of our programs, you can kind of go to our program site there. If you forget any of this, my name is Richard Hartshorn. You can email me, and I'll send you anything you want. Or if you have any questions about any of this afterwards, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Excuse me. We have a quick question.
Okay, sure.
Let me know if it's not. Is that all right?
Is that all right for y'all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fine. Okay. Cool. So kind of what led us to this is obviously in this area particularly, but the realization that modeling and simulation is very important to our national goals has kind of led to this renewed focus, renewed investment, I guess, at the national level, which has led to an increased demand, but a decreased supply of M&S professionals. So we have this renewed focus, this issue with a decrease in the quantity and quality of modeling and simulation professionals. So this renewed focus, particularly at the K-12 level and funding level related to STEM, as if any of y'all are in grant writing positions, y'all are very familiar, I'm sure, with just add a STEM component to it, and that'll help your chances of getting funded. So the renewed focus on that. That kind of coupled with the idea that modeling and simulation is a very rapidly evolving field. I'm preaching to the choir here. So the idea of having to keep up to date, up to speed with everything that's going on, new technologies, et cetera, is very difficult to do in and of itself. So that's a big issue. So Central Florida sort of took the initiative as a major hub of modeling and simulation. There's two or three companies that do modeling and simulation stuff around here, right? Maybe four.
Over 400.
Yeah, over 400. So Central Florida is a great hub for that. So they sort of took the initiative, and a group of people kind of got together, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but really thought that K-12 is a great starting point to start to increase the pipeline of individuals kind of responding to a call from the government to increase the number of students that are going into STEM-related, modeling and simulation-related fields. So we thought that looking at the 9 through 12 high school kids would be a great way to get going with that, and a great initial approach for that. So the way we started the process, and I didn't spearhead this, I was just, as I mentioned, a small piece in a very large pie. But I'll talk about who was kind of the leader of this. But the first step in the process was developing a team. And this team involved individuals, a lot of people from K-12, administration, classroom teachers, parents, a lot of people from industry and a variety of industries, so medical industry, military, a lot of people from higher ed, well, a few people from higher ed. So from kind of all over the place, a team was developed. Another really important factor in the process is that we didn't start from scratch. Old Dominion had a really great entry-level modeling and simulation curriculum that already existed. We went to them and said, hey, this is really great. We would like to take it, use it, adopt it, or modify it for our needs. And they said, sure, more power to you, and gave us kind of permission to use it. So we started with an already existing list of standards and things like that, and took it, aligned it with the Florida standards, aligned it with our goals, and input from industry, input from K-12 educators, input from higher educators, and developed our own from that. There were a ton of meetings initially to kind of make sure everybody was on the same page, to get buy-in, to talk about what this curriculum should look like, what should be in, what shouldn't be in, those sorts of things. A lot of Saturday meetings, a lot of after-school meetings. We had a lot of teachers involved, a lot of administrators, a lot of nighttime meetings, just a lot of meetings to just get things up and running initially. And then as we kind of solidified things and developed this sort of common ground, those meetings tended to move towards the cloud and a lot of email communications, asynchronous communications, which made things a little smoother. You can only do so much when you're trying to get 40 people together at one given place at one given time, and everybody's super busy. And this is one extra thing that they're really passionate about, but they also have their jobs and their family and everything. So once we got this kind of common ground, moving everything to kind of virtual communications was the next step in the process. So after everybody kind of got the shared vision, we're all on the same page, the next step was starting to develop the curriculum. And this was all spearheaded by the National Center for Simulations. I believe Hank Okrasky presented here last time, a couple months ago or something. He has really been the leader of the project in every way. He's gotten everybody together. He's communicated with people in industry, people in education, people at the state level. Just really done a lot with that. So the National Center for Simulation has really driven kind of spearheaded everything here. The Seminole County School District has decided that Hagerty, implemented Hagerty as a school with a modeling and simulation focus. So they are going to be implementing it in the full program when it's finalized and approved. So Hagerty was kind of identified early in the process as a school that's going to kind of take on this initial program. From there, an advisory council was developed. And if we look here, you can kind of see that there's no one real industry that's dominant. There's individuals from all types of industries: medical, military, gaming, school, K-12, higher ed. So all kinds of different industries were represented. So we really wanted to get a diverse group of people to participate and contribute. Then the curriculum was finalized, was modified and finalized, and then Seminole County approved the curriculum in September of last year. And since then, it has gone to the State State Board of Education, Department of Education, and it's currently undergoing the approval process there. The team members, the people that have really participated in the whole process, again, kind of here just highlighting that there's no one real area. These are some of them. I think I got everybody, but I might have missed one or two. But this is most people, and you can kind of see here the variety here. And these people attended meetings. These organizations had people attend meetings. A number of them hosted meetings. A number of them had multiple people from their organization on the team. It's really just a lot of brain power kind of involved in the initial development process. And as I mentioned, just really kind of shows the commitment of the community, the value they see, the buy-in, and the importance of the project. I know there is some skepticism with implementing modeling and simulation in a high school environment, but we think we've done a pretty good job of kind of addressing some of the initial concerns that kind of came up and that sort of thing. And then from that team, we really took the educators in that group primarily to develop the curriculum subcommittee or the curriculum task force, who were charged with taking all of the input from industry as well as the input from educators and developing that curriculum from that. And we see that from Seminole County, a large group of administrators as well as teachers there. Orange County, again, a couple of administrators and a large group of teachers. Not TSD, Sunny Simmons participated in the process, not an educator per se, but she served in sort of a consultation role throughout the development process. UCF, there was this guy, Richard Hartshorn, just brilliant. Just pretty much everything that comes out of his mouth is just unbelievably brilliant. So he's great. And then obviously Hank kind of led the whole process. And then when you're doing something that's going to eventually get approved at the state level, or you want to get approved at the state level, it's always good to have somebody on the state level Department of Education on your team. So Dwayne Hume kind of served that role for us and has been great there as well. So really, we had the input from industry and educators along the way, but really for the development process where we develop pacing guides, the standards, recommended instructional activities, a list of references, all of those sorts of things was left mainly to the educators, which is a novel idea, having people with an education background and experience making education decisions. It's really,
not accountants?
Really, it's odd. I think I'm going to leave that there. Toss that out there and walk away, drop the mic. All right, so just kind of real quickly, I want to talk about some of the critical elements of the kind of key milestones as well. It was added to the information technology cluster for 2015-2016, so job codes and those sorts of things that are associated with the information technology cluster are now aligned with the modeling and simulation curriculum that's going through the approval process now. There was a major emphasis in the development of the curriculum on interdisciplinary study of science, math, gaming and simulations, computer programming, GIS, 2D and 3D art, and robotics. So all of this kind of synergy of all of these together, and we didn't take a segmented or fragmented approach. We took a kind of a holistic approach when it was developed. So obviously there are times when you want to look at just math and just robotics but overall we tried to really kind of blend them all together in a way that was really useful and meaningful. And then another kind of guiding principle was that it was very application and project based. Again, obviously there's terminology you have to know and things of that nature, but we really focused on an application and project based approach when developing and putting the curriculum together. And it looked like this. We have 2 tracks, which I'll talk about in a little bit later, but we took industry, we took the Old Dominion curriculum and developed 12 units, and this is all available online. Like you can see all 12 units and what makes up each unit, and the 12 units are introductory stuff. You can see math, understanding math. I'm not going to read all these to you. Project management, innovation and commercialization, so a lot of entrepreneurship type of things. Then we took that and blended it into course standards. So we separated those units into 4 different courses and align those with the Florida standards, and then develop those 4 courses from these standards. Does that make sense? So, good, because I spent a lot of time making that. And year 1, and when we broke up the 4 years, year 1 was found, yes?
Yeah, on the previous slide,
Yep.
there's only 4 courses that are going to be.
It's a 4 courses.
On a year?
Yeah, 4-year courses. And students are encouraged to take electives in associated fields, so maybe more advanced math courses, maybe digital, like graphics courses, design courses, animation courses, any of those things that are offered at their schools. They're encouraged to take electives that align with this. So yeah, and they're 4-year courses, and they are for entry level. We're not, they're not going to be, running modeling simulation companies at the end of it, but they get their foot in the door kind of stuff. So real quickly, the curriculum here. The first year is foundational, and I'll talk about these in just a minute. The second year is focused on design. The third year focuses on applications. I'll talk more about specific topics in a moment. And then the fifth year focuses on innovation and fourth year, innovation and prototyping. There's really a workplace learning kind of approach as well. So opportunities for shadowing and mentoring and field trips to places, those are all really built into the curriculum whenever they are appropriate. So just real quick, this is about all of the text I tried to include on the slide. But the topics in year one, your basic foundation stuff, your terminology, your programming languages, just information about them, not coding per se, visual simulations, environmental models, those kind of things. Year one kind of culminated with a visual model project, and in year one they also start a professional portfolio, and they add to it over the 4 years. So there are smaller projects, obviously, in the courses along the way that build to this culminating activity in each year. And year one, it's a visual model. In year two, they get into the design aspects. So we talk about animation, model fidelity, photo and video editing software and how to use all those things, audio, 3D animation, rigging, all these things. And they create a simple 3D model for their portfolio, for their professional portfolio. 3D simulation. Then in year three, we get into the application. So we start looking at hardware issues, 3D modeling and simulation software engines, a lot of probability stuff for scenarios and things like that. Testing programs, object-oriented programming, NURBS, animation principles, little things like that. And then here they have a complex 3D simulation as their culminating activity. So kind of visual model, simple 3D simulation, complex 3D simulation in year three. And then in year four, we start getting into the fun stuff. How do you make money with all of this and protect your intellectual property, and what are copyright issues? We get into entrepreneurism, creating prototypes, multimedia programming, those sorts of things. So here we're looking at innovation and prototyping. And here they do a larger model or simulation program where they look at the research that exists, what's out there, and then they solve sort of a unique problem related to that they select along the way.
And all these products are individual, or are they going to be group?
It depends. Some of them are group along the way. Ultimately, I think they start, it just depends on the setup of the individual class. It's not really structured where it has to be group or has to be individual. Your portfolio would be individual, but it can include a project that's a group project or something like that. So, and then obviously there are a ton of careers, but the things that we would see them going into initially for internship types of positions would be some entry-level software developers, so transportation or any kind of city planning type things, coding, so computer programmers, mathematician type stuff, logistics, tactical operations, the security type things, and then really, the biggest thing here is that it provides an opportunity for internships, for scholarships, but also when they enter a bachelor's program, they have a really solid foundation in modeling and simulation. So where we stand, I've already talked about this a little bit, but right now the Florida Department of Education has assigned it a course numbers to the program. It's on their DOE site. Right now we're just waiting for the final state board approval, which I think is just kind of them signing something for the most part. We have beta tested the certification exam, which I'll talk about more in a little bit. We're waiting for approval from CareerSource Florida for the certification aspect of it as well, and we're also waiting for money to kind of pop up. I mentioned before, some of y'all walked in, but we were on sort of a funding list that to support the program, and we were pretty far down the state of Florida's list. They did a reboot of that, and we're now kind of much higher on the list as far as receiving some funding for schools, and the certification program particularly. Deb Yeagle, who is on the, if anyone's interested in the certification program or more information on it, I have these brochures up here, and Deb Yeagle kind of is the chair of the subcommittee on that. She's at AT Solutions. So the second part of what I was going to talk about, and I'll probably be done relatively soon and can open it up to questions. But the kind of the part that goes along with this is, okay, you finish this 9 through 12 curriculum, big deal, everybody gets a high school diploma, not really a big accomplishment. So what can we do to add value to this? And we developed a certification program to align with that. And we're developing an exam, and that is being sponsored. We're waiting for approval from CareerSource Florida. But the idea is that this will certify students for entry-level positions in modeling and simulation fields and positions. Kind of the way that it's aligned with the 9 through 12 curriculum, but it's not, you do not have to complete the curriculum to take the certification exam. If you have experiences that warrant that, you could complete the application process and complete it and take the exam and receive the certification as well. But we're working with CareerSource, the Florida DOE, CareerSource Florida, CareerSource Central Florida, Orange County Schools, Economic Opportunity of Florida, and Seminole County Schools, to all kind of package the certification together so that it means something. Because a lot of some certifications don't mean a whole lot. So we want this certification to definitely mean something. In 2015, it is going to be piloted by 5 schools. Crooms Academy, which has, and these schools do not have the formal program, but they have robust modeling and simulation curriculum already embedded in their schools. So the students that are taking it will not have completed the 4-year program, but they will have completed a modeling and simulation program of some sort, and the study guide and those sorts of things to kind of help them prepare for the beta testing of it. The schools are Crooms Academy, Timber Creek, Haggerty High School, Lyman High School, and University High School. And they'll be certifying it. The benefits that we said, like, we want to have, obviously, benefits, make it beneficial to everybody involved. But the ones, and to take it, you have to have like a 3.0 GPA and get 2 teacher recommendation letters and also complete an application process, which is online. So the benefits to the students, it opens up opportunities for internships and scholarships. For example, NCS sponsors a number of scholarships, and it would make them more competitive in those scholarship process, more competitive for internship positions. It also makes them more competitive in entry into higher education as well. For schools, for higher ed, it gives us more students. But for the K-12 school systems, they can obtain state funding and also a classification of a high-tech school, which can improve their overall school grade. They also this can provide teachers with summer funding opportunities as well, because we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then for industry, obviously, you're getting people that are coming to you with some knowledge of the field as opposed to limited knowledge. So the training process is reduced and that sort of thing.
Students who are currently in the master's program in modeling and simulation, or even instructional design, do you think that opening up these curricula in high schools would open up opportunities for the master's and PhD graduates who want to be teachers for those curricula?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you think they're looking to hire a lot soon?
I'm sorry?
Those schools, do you think they'll be hiring?
I'm going to skip ahead. I'll just kind of jump to answer that question instead of. One of our sticking points is that, we have this curriculum and we don't have teachers that can teach it. So we're looking at models for that right now. We talked about doing an education, a minor. So for any pre-service teacher now, this is my area, so I don't know how familiar y'all are with how education works. But pre-service teachers, they go through their education degrees, and then they get, their science teacher or something like that. Well, can we do a modeling simulation minor? Is that enough to prepare them to teach a curriculum of a pretty high-tech kind of thing? I don't know. So we had talked about, and then there's already a science ed minor and a math ed minor. You don't want to step on toes with a modeling simulation minor too. So can you merge the three of those and add some courses? So it's kind of is that something that's appropriate? Is a graduate certificate something that would be appropriate to prepare teachers for? So we're looking at different models. One of the things that we're looking at doing is writing an NSF grant to bring in a collection of teachers to develop lesson plans that can be directly implemented in the classroom to support people that, number one, maybe they're great teachers, but they don't know the content very well, or they're still learning the content. So how can we get them up to speed and make it a seamless a process for them as possible? Or for people that don't know anything about teaching but know the content really well, how can we prepare them to kind of get into the classroom? So sort of the population you would be talking a little bit more about. So we're looking at different models. We're trying to do a sort of a summer cohort thing where they come in, we develop instructional materials, we develop support materials like teacher training, sort of a train the trainer kind of model. We're kind of still throwing a few things around related to that. But one of the big issues is where are these teachers going to come from? And then we have a great group of passionate teachers that are really good at this teaching this stuff, but they're a really small group of people. And how do you address that when it goes countywide and you need many more teachers to do that? So
just real fast, are the options for master's level 2 or PhD minor, or do they just have to get certified in teaching?
At the moment, they would need to be certified in teaching, and then they would be able to teach. I'm sorry, I didn't really answer the question to that. They would need to be certified to teach, which there are a variety of ways to go about doing that. But then they could teach the content because this would be their area of specialization. So you have to take a content area exam and then a teaching exam to be certified. And the content area exam would be really easy to pass. And then the teaching one would be you would have to do some courses and stuff like that. So
okay, would there be just an industry that they need to have? Kind of a graduate program?
I think it would really just depend on the certification process that would be negotiated with. It might be different in Seminole, it might be different in Orange County, or ultimately we would like to see this in Georgia and in North Carolina and Texas and California. And so it might be different for each of those as well. So it just really depends on the individual school districts and the states to see how they're going to, how they handle that. So.
Do the existing programs that are in the high school interface with people in the M&S community? The reason I ask is I live near Timber Creek, and I know they have one, as you pointed out, and I believe they have somebody from Lockheed who is there.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering how that works.
I don't know how the individual schools do. There's the group that we have, the curriculum committee, they do a lot of collaboration and meeting with industry. I mean, we've had a ton of meetings. We've had a couple of meetings at Lockheed, and so the community, the industry, and the K-12 community are pretty involved together. So
I just thought there was somebody at Lockheed who volunteered at Timber Creek, but maybe.
They do. They have some of the like Lyman. I know has some people that volunteer as well. So there are some industry people that kind of participate in the instruction. So or in the schools. So and I think it's more informal. So than right at this moment, but that may be something we formalize later on. So the certification test, it was beta tested with a bunch of SMEs in January. So a lot of K-12 teachers who've been teaching the related content. Some people who, I took the beta test, and so a few people from industry. the test was designed with input from industry and less input from K-12. And the idea is that a lot of the K-12 people took it to see, okay, is this something that we cover? Is it something we can cover? Those sorts of things. So the industry said what's important to be on there, and K-12 came in and said, kind of reconciling the issues with industry and K-12 and where they see eye to eye and where they might differ on a few things. We started with 90 questions. We're preparing it down to 50 questions with industry input, as I mentioned. So we have revised it. We've gone through an initial revision of it already, and it is being beta tested with students from those 5 schools in March and April. We're not sure of an exact date yet. And we have currently over 100 applications from K-12 students to beta test it. And then from there, we'll do a final revision in the summer, and then it will go into like play next academic year. And I could show you the test, but then I'd have to kill you, and nobody wants that. So kind of some sticking points along the way that we've had. The first one that Sabrina kind of brought up was teacher preparation. And how do we deal with this? It's a big issue. And we have a couple of models and some things I'll talk about, but that's one of the big things. Another thing is dissemination of this. Central Florida, great. It's a great community to get it started. But like I said, I want to see this in Texas and Oklahoma and Utah. And so how do we, if we're having issues with teacher preparation here and some of the other issues that we have, how do we address that and how do we market this? I'm presenting on this at site conference, but I'm probably going to have a group like this at the conference attending to hear me talk about it. So how do we get the word out about all this time and effort and good work that we've been doing? The teacher preparation was an issue, and in talking about various models and ways that we can prepare teachers, one of the things that popped up was hardware issues. And I always thought software issues would be a big issue, but all of them, or not all, a lot of teachers and the schools don't have the hardware that would support some of the stuff that we need to do. And that's a big sticking point moving forward, and something that we're looking at potential ways to address, but right now we're not sure where we're going to go with that. And then software issues are obviously there as well. And there's a lot of questions as with any program where you're implementing software. Do you have a core set of software that you use, or does each school kind of on their own? And there's a lot of questions related to software, the types of software, getting that software that are kind of coming up here. Some lessons learned, and I'll move through this quickly for questions and discussion. A lot of logistical things, really like getting school level approval versus district level approval versus state level approval are all 3 very distinct and different things, but all very interrelated and need to be addressed delicately and kind of simultaneously, because if you don't have all of them, you don't have any of them. So that's one of a big issue. Buy-in from all sectors and getting that early. Hank did a great job getting participants from all different industries and K-12 and higher ed and all different areas to kind of get that buy-in. Time is another issue. I'm not sure about how things work with y'all, but in education, things tend to move a little slower than in some fields. So kind of planning for those types of things. And just in the school year alone, there are so many little things that most people don't even think of that take up large chunks of a school year that are really problematic. So that's been a big issue just in working on this, getting it all together. And then turnover was also another issue. People leave in education more so than other areas. So turnover is a big issue, and how do you address that? Going back to the buy-in and getting buy-in from different people at different levels of a particular organization or industry is really important to address that turnover issue. Kind of found that out along the way. Developing strong partnerships and a shared vision along the way were really critical as well. So that initial kind of setup that I talked about, where the team was put together and, kind of that shared vision, and we just kicked out people who disagreed with them. I'm just kidding. But we kind of coming to that shared vision was really important. Technologically, as I mentioned, teacher prep was a major issue, but the hardware and software was probably is going to be just as critical of an issue moving forward. How do we address the types of hardware that we need, the funding for that, the software that we need, et cetera. And then a lot of pedagogical issues, which I've kind of talked about, kind of jumping around a little bit. Future directions with this, and this is the last slide, I think. It's actually been presented at ITSEC the past 2 years. The full curriculum was presented 2 years ago, and Hank handed out little CDs with all of it on. The high school team has competed in the past 2 years, a team that developed a simulation in Seminole County and Orange County, I believe. Developing models of developing online material. So the dissemination issue that I talked about is really important and near and dear to my heart. How do we get the word out about this? So developing that is something that will be coming up relatively soon. Addressing the teacher preparation issue. We have a bunch of models. We're just trying to see which one wins. We're going to throw them into like a battle royal of teacher prep models, and one's going to emerge. We're not sure which one yet. And then securing hardware and software, and that's something that's just going to it's kind of something that's emerged rather recently. So far we've been pretty successful. I think we're almost there at the approval process. It's been implemented in some levels in a lot of the K-12 schools. We still have a long way to go, but I don't really think there's much better place than Orlando to be working on this right now. With that, I will just kind of open it up to y'all for any questions, comments, mean remarks, like that.
I'm just curious. The Old Dominion, I knew they had an undergraduate program.
Yeah.
In modeling simulation, which
that's what we took their undergrad and scaled it down for a 9 through 12 curriculum.
Right, okay. Yeah, we've made a decision a long time ago that we wouldn't do that. But I understand there's one of the state colleges has got at least a 2-year program, or they're planning one. Which state college is that?
Valencia.
Yeah, I was going to say Valencia is doing something, but I'm not exactly sure what they're doing. They've participated a little bit in certain aspects of this. So.
And Valencia got put on hold, I think.
Did it?
They had a plan, but something stopped. It has them paused right now.
Okay. I'd heard it started up, but I didn't know it got kind of stopped temporarily. I mean, the process of getting it going has started, not implementation. So.
Yeah.
So the students that are applying to get in this, they're 8th graders, or they're already freshmen?
Well, for the certification exam, it's rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors. To get into the program, yeah, they could apply as a freshman,
okay.
Or as an 8th grader, and kind of going into establish a track and all that when they got into their high school.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I wasn't sure when they're supposed to get in to start. You said 4 years, right? So.
Yeah, so it would start in the 9th grade and kind of move on. I'm not sure if a formal process for when they would apply and how they would apply to the program has been developed yet.
So the application process is only for the exam right now?
Right, yeah, and you can access the curriculum fully online, the study guide, the application for that. And it's not the application was due for the beta test February 9th, so that'll be implemented. But then next year, that'll be something that the schools would kind of give out and address in the program, I would imagine.
So students currently right now would be able to take these classes, that are freshmen now, to take classes as their sophomore. Are aware of this?
Well, it's not. Certain schools have various M&S courses and things like that, but the program won't go into effect until next year. So it'll starting as a 9th grader next year, you'd be eligible to complete the full program, the formal program. There may be a way where they piecemeal it with sophomores and juniors and stuff that maybe have had an intro course or something like that. I'm not sure how they're going to address that, to be honest.
By next year, you mean fall of 15?
Yes, next 2015-2016 academic year.
I guess piggybacking on Sabrina's question and a little bit the motivation behind my question.
Okay.
And stepping back, I'm curious the ways in which the UCF Modeling and Simulation graduate program can interface with this program in some way, right? In some sense, preparing people who might be able to take on those educational positions as part, but also volunteering if they have needs for that. If you're going to do projects, are there ways that we can? I mean, it just seems like you're doing something and we're doing something at two ends.
Well, I think we can definitely find a lot of opportunities. Like as I mentioned earlier, the mentoring and the shadowing and it would be great opportunities. Field trips, to see what's going on here. And then what does an M&S bachelor student or graduate student's day look like? And or just a variety of things you could do. Obviously, y'all have networks and contacts in industry that the K-12 schools aren't going to have. You have graduates that might want to go into teaching, so how can we facilitate that? There's a lot of things to be talked about along the way. Like I said, we have a long way to go. We're just getting started with it, but I think there's a lot of things we can definitely talk about to see what kind of opportunities are there.
One thing that is just coming to my mind right now, and it's ill-formed, so I apologize. I mean, one of the things Sabrina and I have been talking about, and we're a little bit behind on that, I think, is establishing a poster session for the graduate students here at the end of the academic year each year, so that they can come in and we can invite our executive board in, which have representations from all over industry and DOD and so forth, to see what people are doing. I wonder if several years down the road we can integrate that with some of the projects that the high school students are doing.
That'd be great.
Have them come and see, or have them come and have some poster themselves, depending on what the curriculum
Do like a mini conference kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be great. Yeah, we can talk about some things. So.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Concerning the hardware requirements, and it's probably not very conventional notion, but you're probably looking at getting a lot of PCs in a lot of places. It's kind of like herding a bunch of cats.
Yeah.
Any thought given to centralizing or cloud? It doesn't have to be a supercomputer, but
like thin client type stuff, or like.
Well, like a cluster, not necessarily like what we have, but maybe like what we have, but getting simulation software centralized on one system, and you wouldn't have to worry about what you do at all the schools. You just have cloud access or web access and run all your simulation software that's been approved, since it's going to be standardized, I guess, the simulation software.
I don't know. See, do we want to stand? I mean, there's a lot of issues like related to, do we want to standardize it?
Yeah.
Do we not want to standardize it? Because I'll give you an example. I teach multimedia development classes.
Yeah.
And I have students in K-12 schools, and I have students in instructional design firms and whatever. Yeah. And they have Dreamweaver, but the K-12 schools are never going to have Dreamweaver. They're not going to buy it they're not going to put it on most of their computers or that sort of, or Photoshop.
And then as it progresses, there's the licensing for upgrades.
Right.
Which is,
so do we want to standardize? Yeah, exactly. Do I want to standardize that? I choose not to, but I have 30 students as opposed to a school system. So I think that's something that we're going to have to explore with the school districts and say what is the best approach, and we're looking at a few things, but that's a good, having a centralized kind of hub might be the way to go. So we'll call you. We're definitely going to be calling to get input from people, because I'm really not sure what the best way to approach that is.
Yeah.
To be honest,
And maybe a hybrid system.
Yeah.
There might be 4 or 5 programs that are obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's definitely a core set. When I talk to them at the teachers at the beta testing, they all use probably 4 or 5 different tools regularly. So it's just a matter of, the the way they had to work licensing, there were so many little things that were.
I know.
Yeah, y'all,
Complex.
like I said, I'm preaching to the choir on some of that stuff. So.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe this is treading on what Paul and Sabrina had mentioned earlier. But how about a scenario like this? Our graduate student would fix up posters and things like that. We bring eighth graders through to see what's all going on, to possibly interest them in doing it on the curriculum in high school.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. So. And I'm right across the street.
Well, we've got a bunch of education students that
But is
are,
eighth grade too early to start something like that?
that are going through your master's degree and some of your certificate degrees that end up in at least one modeling simulation class, which is mine, and that's got a project component.
Mm-hmm.
And students could be encouraged to work on high school type projects.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, particularly the ones that it made sense for, you know.
Right, I mean, the ones that might want to teach in high school, for example.
So. Great.
And actually, the lady over at Haggerty, I mean, she was in my class.
Okay.
And they were looking for somebody that had, real passion for teaching, and she really did. And she's the teacher over there now.
Yeah, she's running, sort of getting ready to implement this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so.
I'm going to other meetings in this other effort. So I've never actually been at a meeting with you.
Yeah.
But, I follow it, and obviously I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I think we'll all talk later.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I'll, when Hank gets back, I'll kind of mention some of the things we talked about here.
Okay.
And kind of get him to see any other questions?
Well, one other comment, and that my wife's a fairly recently retired public school teacher, and getting people who are well versed in the technical disciplines, let's say a recently retired engineer, and bringing them into the high school, they were at least playing with the idea of an expedited certification process. I don't know what happened to that.
In North Carolina, we had that, an expedited certification, and we had a lot of retired people that with years and years of really practical experience come into the classroom, and it made a lot of sense.
It
was
does make a lot of
relatively
sense.
successful, because they were pretty good in front of the classroom for the most part. So but that might be a model that we kind of look at as well. So I think a lot of the preparation stuff and some of the sticking points are kind of still to be determined right now.
Right. But I think there's more technically prepared people out there that are just being hung up because of that certification requirement that you're not able to get to. And if you're using a North Carolina type approach, I mean, you'd vastly increase the number of potential teachers.
Well, my bachelor's degree is physics, and I went straight from a physics degree to the physics classroom, and I had to take some courses and got certified, but I got in the classroom with a straight physics degree. I had no education background at all, had never been in front of a classroom.
And that's what they were doing, at least in Orange County, about 5 years ago, and I don't know whether they're still doing that or not.
I'm not sure.
So these people they could hire them, and they could get certified, but start teaching right away.
Right, and they have to do some stuff, jump through some hurdles and stuff, but it gets them in the classroom.
Gets them into the classroom.
Yeah. So, I'll actually look into that because I'm not sure if there's some kind of alternate certification route. So, but I know people who would know the answer to that. So sometimes being in the College of Ed has its benefits.
Right.
Anything else? Well, thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Real quick, what were the 5 high schools again?
Lyman, Crooms, Timber Creek, Haggerty, and University.
No need to take notes. Right here.
Always happens, right?
Hey, Pete.
Hey, how you doing?
See you.
And,
Do you?
I
How's
did my
everything?
master's degree against each other.
Yeah, I just slipped down a little bit.
96 to
How
99.
you doing?
Okay.
Good, how